you know, they say it's dangerous to go alone. So, come on, grab my hand. Welcome back to the channel, guys, and before we go any further, I feel like I should introduce myself more formally because we need to know each other, right, if we're going to be on a journey together. I'm Nate, okay? I feel like I haven't said that enough to you guys. I looked back at the older videos and I'm like, hey, I don't really say my name a lot. You know, Chris and Christian, they say my name, like, when we're talking together, but alone, one-on-one, you guys are probably like, hey, what's this guy's name? And if you weren't wondering that, then, well, now you know. Anyway, that goes along with what we're talking about today. I want to talk about some of my favorite cooperative games, right? Not just games you play, you know, with a friend somewhere across the world. I'm talking about games that you can play together on a couch co-op game. So over the weekend, I went to a vintage game shop and, you know, I found myself there randomly. I feel like it's a good place to go back in time. Like the whole time I was there, I was kind of like not on my phone at all, and I was just kind of like walking around with my friends, enjoying it. Like, oh, this is cool, this is cool. And it made me realize like so much of my connection with my friends is based through video games. Like you can look back at the timeline of our friendship by pointing out a title. Like I could point out this game, be like, oh, hey, remember we played that game together? We were like, you know, we were hanging out that one night and we stayed up all night playing the game, all this stuff. And it just got me thinking like, man, I missed that experience of having that friendship when you're together. I feel like it's just so lost nowadays because you don't experience the same thing. Like kids growing up now, they probably don't have very many games where they're like, hey, I remember being at your house playing that game all night. No, they're probably like, hey, remember we were up all night playing Fortnite while you were at your house and I was at my house? That was sick, right? And yeah, I don't know, it just got me really feeling nostalgic, and which is why has inspired this list for you guys today. So the first one I want to talk about, I think I'm gonna probably do about 5 here. The first one that I want to talk about that holds near and dear to my heart. Now these are not gonna be like the best co-op games ever, because you can just Google like a list of co-op games, right? This is not gonna be that. This is gonna be the 5 games that are like important to me and my friends in our group. So starting us off is a very random game. I don't know if many of you guys have played it, even heard of it, but for me and my friends, it was a blast. It is a 3D mini golf. More specifically, it is a game called 3D Ultra Mini Golf. I had to re-Google it right now because I forgot the full title of it. This game, I don't know where it came from. I just know my friend one day had it, and I think it might have been like a free game on Xbox or something like that. And he was like, hey, you guys want to play this? And me, I love mini golf in real life, but for some reason, when you play in a video game form, it just becomes instantly more fun. It was the best because it was a more than like 2-player co-op game. It's like a party game, basically. I think the most you can probably do is maybe like 5 people, and you know, my group's not very big, so 4 to 5 was probably the sweet spot for us, so we can all be hanging out one night and it's like, hey, what game can we all play together? This game was the one that came through clutch for us many times. We'd just be like hanging out bored and we're like, hey, you want to play mini golf? And sure, let's play mini golf. And it is pretty much like a what you can imagine a mini golf game being in a video game form. You play as these 3D modeled people and we gave them backstories. They're not important, they're not even probably true to the story, but our stories we made up with them made the game a lot more fun. And yeah, there's like wacky obstacles, you get power-ups, you can mess with people's balls, and well, not like that. You can mess with their golf balls on the course. And yeah, it's just fun to like have a game like that where you can just all play at once. It is nothing too serious. It's kind of just like a laid-back, chill game, and you can make it as crazy as you want by, like I mentioned earlier, messing with other people's, you know, golf balls around the course. Like you can hit them off the course, and you can just mess up your own score by doing that. But in turn, you mess up your friend's score, which is the whole fun of it. And yeah, you could play straight through if you really wanted to. You could play like, you know, I'm gonna always just go for, you know, hole-in-ones or whatever. And yeah, there's like shortcuts and power-ups, and like the level designs are pretty fun. It just felt like a game that you could probably get like out of a McDonald's, or was it Burger King? I think it was Burger King that did like a whole Happy Meal with like Burger King games, like the King. I remember Sneak King. That was the best Burger King game. Anyway, it felt like kind of that, like the graphics themselves, and there actually was a sequel to it. So, I mean, it must have been popular enough to warrant a sequel, even though I guess some games get a sequel no matter what. Yeah, this game for me, super nostalgic. It brought us together many a nights, and I will always have fond memories of it. You might have not played it, but if you have access to possibly getting it, I would suggest doing that. Okay, a lot of these are going to be games that we played on the 360, because I feel like when me and my friends met and hung out a lot, it was during the 360 days, because I feel like PS2 and PS1 days were kind of just like more, you know, games that you played on your own. You didn't really play too many with your friends, and I did not get a PS3 because that was the worst Sony system, and you can quote me on that one. The next game I want to talk about is going to be Halo, and it wasn't just regular Halo. The Halo that we played a lot of was Halo 4. That game, I was never into Halo because I did grow up as a Sony fanboy, and I didn't play the original Xbox, so I didn't play the original Halo that much, or Halo 2 for that matter. I only played when I was like around friends or whatever. But Halo 4 came out, and by that time I had owned a 360, and I was like, hey, let me just jump in because all of my friends are playing it. So I picked it up. Regular Halo is not the funnest for me, like regular multiplayer, because it's really hard and like people, you don't really die. They're just so strong. But Halo 4 SWAT mode, however, was my favorite and my friend's favorite games to play together. You could play split screen, but it becomes an issue of screen looking, whatever. But I guess that's kind of the fun of it. So it was a couch co-op game in the sense that we did play all together in the same room, but we would mainly do like a one TV here, one TV over there. So it was kind of like a LAN party, I guess, back in the day. And we'd run it that way, and all four of our friends, we'd just take turns playing SWAT. We'd switch teams and, go back and forth. And it was fun because it was more competitive, I feel like, than regular multiplayer. SWAT, you have to headshots only, and that's the only way you get your kills. Yeah, it was just a fun time for me and my friends because it was just like, I think the most competitive we would get during like a session of just like hanging out, gaming, whatever. Mini golf, like I mentioned earlier, was more like casual. It wasn't too crazy, but Halo 4 SWAT, oh man, it was going down every weekend. Halo 4 SWAT definitely was a fun co-op couch experience. All right, and sticking in the realm of, I guess, competitiveness, in which we had, it wasn't as cooperative. It was actually very competitive. Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Oh man, what a fantastic game. Of course, you had to have a fighting game on this list because fighting games are the classic couch co-op games, or I guess couch competitive games, I guess. I don't know, just couch experiences with your friends. Yeah, this game was the one you had to just throw hands on, and you had to prove to your friends that you were not a pushover and that you could hang with them. And like I mentioned earlier, could not hang very much on this one. There are a couple characters that I learned a little bit, but just the game itself, the gameplay is so extensive that you have to like take it home and like practice. And that wasn't me, but we had a friend, Mike. He took it super serious, so he was really good at it. He was like 30-piece comboing you, air tagging out, and just like you could not get a shot on him. So it kind of became a whole thing of like all of our friends trying to beat him. He would run the table for like hours on end, and we try our best to beat him. But I don't know what it was about Marvel vs. Capcom. I think it was because the fact that it was Marvel vs. Capcom. It's always fun to see your favorite superheroes fight, Street Fighter characters. And it was just like the first time you get a 3D experience like that. And yeah, it was just a fun experience. Not being good at it wasn't fun, but the funness of trying to team up on our friend and beat him and mess with him as much as we could was fun. It brought us all together. Okay, now going back to more of a cooperative style game. This was kind of a sleeper when it came out. It did get sequels later on, but for me, this kind of came out of nowhere. I believe I rented it from Blockbuster at the time. Remember that? You probably don't if you're young, but us older people do. We would go and rent games, and mainly you'd be with your friend, and your parents would be like, hey, let's go to Blockbuster or rent a movie, and you guys can get a little game. So we had to make the right choice when we were there. Walking the aisles of Blockbuster, we had to look at every game and say, oh, we can play this. No, we can't play that. So we ended up one day picking Army of Two. If you've ever played Army of Two, it's just a cooperative army game, but you're just like two soldiers, and they're cool because they're funny. One's big, one's small. That's always a fun dynamic. And it's kind of like that movie, Savages, is that what it's called? That's what it kind of reminds me of, because you have these cool masks, and pretty much you're just like an army of two. You have to go and like save a girl or whatever. And introduced mainly the aggro system, where like one player pulls aggro from like the boss, and then your friend goes behind them and kills them or whatever. But yeah, this was a cooperative experience, and me and my friend who played at the time were taken back by it. We didn't really play games like this. Well, not with that friend specifically. We always just hung out and like enjoyed each other's company. But that was the first time where he was like, hey, let's play a game together. And I was like, oh shit, okay, let's do it. So we ended up falling on this, and yeah, just the gameplay itself was fun because, the aggro system and the way they did like the run and gun style, it made for a better experience. It wasn't like, it didn't feel like Gears, but it kind of felt like Gears-esque, but a little bit more fast-paced and a little bit more silly, of course. And yeah, it was just a fun experience overall. And I think it was like the first time that a game really, like, for me, captured like cooperative, like you and your friend have to do things, and it didn't make it feel like so samey. Like Time Crisis, when you play that at the arcade, felt kind of like the same. Like you could play two different characters, but it wasn't really any different. This one felt like they fleshed out the two characters, and you felt like you were playing Salem, and you felt like you were playing, I forgot the other guy's name, but I just played as Salem, that's why I remember. You play as the other guy, so it feels like you really are that character when you're playing them as yourselves, you know, and your friend has his own little experiences. So yeah, I feel like Army of Two was really a good, like, co-op game, and they did have sequels I mentioned. I didn't really get into them, but the first one, for me specifically, oh, super fun. And, you know, it's always fun to just yell at your friend, like, hey, you're not doing it right, do it this way, and then they just get mad at you because you're telling them how to play, and nobody likes a backseat player. So, yeah, Army of Two. Okay, so I lied. I said there would be 5 of them. There's actually 6 games that I have included on this list, and the final one I want to talk about that was, you know, very nostalgic for me. And looking back, thinking about it now, all the ones that I mentioned, I've played with a lot of different groups of friends. And looking back on that now, I'm like, damn, some of these friends I haven't kept in touch with, but some of them I have. But it's you know, like I said, nostalgic. When you see game titles and it just brings you back to a certain place, you're like, oh, that's where I was at in life. Anyway, the last one I want to talk about is Resident Evil 5. This was my first real experience with the Resident Evil game. I know, it's crazy, right? My father would play them growing up, so he played them. And then, you know, Resident Evil 4, never got into it. I don't know what it was. Maybe I was too afraid or something. My friend bought the game. And he was like, hey, there's a co-op, do you want to play? And I was like, sure, I guess. I never really played a Resident Evil game, but I do enjoy playing games, you know, with friends, couch co-op, and yeah. Resident Evil 5 was the first horror experience I got to experience with a friend, and you know, usually your friend would play a game and you would just be watching in the background. This time we both got to experience it together, and it wasn't super scary, but it was the most, like, I guess, action out of all the Resident Evil games, and there was just, like, you know, cool experiences, and it was just a fun time because I had never experienced a game like this. Because of it, it made it one of my favorite ones. I know it's not, like, super regarded as, like, the best, but it was a fun experience for me, and it was just, like, having your friend be next to you and you guys are laughing together, like, making fun of, like, how they each other are playing, or, like, making fun of the zombies, or just, like, being scared together. It was a cool, unique experience at the time for me to have that with a friend, and that's what makes it, like, higher up on my Resident Evil. Since then, I went back and played a couple other ones, but this was like the first time that I actually like experienced it together. And it's always fun to like play a game with a friend and end up beating it together with a friend. And oftentimes you would have to do it like within that night, because you go over to your friend's house, you stay there for just the night, and then you leave the next day, right? So it would force you to have to just stay up all night playing a game, and you have to work through it all together. And when you beat it together, there's nothing better than that. And that's what I think I miss most about, you know, co-op experiences, where you don't get to like experience the joy of beating something together anymore. And I think that's like so sad. Kids don't have that these days. They just have like shit talking online because they teabagged you after they, you know, assassinated you or whatever. So yeah, Resident Evil 5 and the joy of beating games together, that's part of my list there. And this will conclude my list of my favorite couch co-op games growing up. Most of these games I think you can play if you try hard enough. You can find them if you own a 360, because I mentioned earlier this is mainly all 360 games. You can find them on the Xbox market still somehow. Go ahead and play them. They're all fun. They're all cool. I definitely feel like there are still some cool co-op games coming out now. Like It Takes Two won Game of the Year a couple years ago, but I just feel like the art of couch co-op has been kind of lost somewhere, and I thought it'd be fun to go back and look at it and see like, hey, this is what, you know, how I experienced it, me and my friends experienced games together, and you know, it's interesting to see. And you know, it'd be interesting to see like what you guys have experienced growing up, so I would like to know that. You can leave a comment down below, like what are your favorite couch co-op games, your favorite memories, what do you have currently that you like playing with someone in the same room as you, all that stuff I want to know. So go ahead and comment that down below. Also subscribe if you haven't already. I don't know what you're doing. I thought we were a team. We established this dynamic earlier, right? We are co-ops together, so go subscribe. What are you doing? Also, you can follow us. All that stuff's going to be down below. Until next time, go find a friend.